All right, welcome back, designers. I'm now going to go over our first project. It's a fun intro project just designed to get you thinking like a designer, like a three-dimensional designer, thinking about objects, thinking about structure and problem solving, and how we make things. All right, so I've got a really sort of simple problem here. You can see I have a few different things laid out. And here we have some milk. Right, some spaghetti, an egg, some hot glue, and some extra hot glue sticks. Right? So basically, what I'm going to ask you to do, right, and this is a problem. Right? This is a problem for you to solve. Right? I'm going to give you some quick pointers, but that's all I'm going to give you. I'm going to ask you to suspend this object over the top of that object. Now, you don't have to use a brown egg. Right? I would prefer if you'd used an egg, but if for some reason your family doesn't eat eggs and you don't have any eggs, you could choose some other delicate, fragile, precious object like an egg. Doesn't have to be a container of milk, right? So don't get hung up on that. I don't drink milk, and therefore I don't want to go out to the store and buy milk. A half a gallon of milk weighs about 4 pounds. Right? A half a gallon of any liquid weighs about 4 pounds. Now, different liquids will weigh slightly different things. We could talk about that later. But it's about 4 pounds. Right? So maybe you have a 4-pound kettlebell. You could use that if you needed to. Right? But if you want to sort of stick to the assignment, then it's basically about hovering something over that. The rules of the project: you have to be able to take the egg in and out. Right? So you can't completely encase the egg. It has to be suspended over. So I have to be able to remove the egg in and out, and we have to be able to hover it over. And you can only use this. There's some spaghetti for you there. Right, take a few of these out. Right, and this. Make sure this hot glue is kind of getting going there. Okay. All right. A couple quick things about working with the hot glue. All right. Before we go too far, I already talked in the previous video, the materials and overview about using the hot glue and how a low temp hot glue is going to burn you less. Right. If you touch this metal tip, it's hot. Basically, what this is a thermodynamic glue, meaning that when it's hot, when it's hot, it becomes a liquid, and then when it cools down, it becomes solid, and it can go back and forth multiple times. So really, is all you're doing in here is just heating that up enough that that you can that it becomes a liquid, and then it cools pretty quickly. So in order to join various things together, all you got to do is kind of you squeeze the trigger and put a little bit of the hot glue on. You always want to, sometimes they don't stand up very well. You want to try to avoid all these little strings because they just don't look good. Right? And then those two objects are stuck together. Right? It's fairly simple. Get a little close up there so you can see that. And you can stick multiple things together. Right? So one of the ways that people sometimes do this is they'll kind of put some glue on there, right? And then you can kind of roll it around a little bit. And it stays liquid, so it'll kind of move around. Once it's cool, you can touch it a little bit to kind of tamp it down. You can also blow on it. Right now, I have all of these things are all together. Right? So the only rules of the project, right, or of the challenge, if you will, is that we want to suspend this over this. Right? Suspend the milk over the egg, utilizing only the hot glue and the spaghetti sticks. Right? These don't necessarily have to stay this long. Right? They can be broken. Right? So you can make shorter units to do various things. Right? One of the things about working with the spaghetti, right? The spaghetti is going to be fairly short. You know, when you get a piece of it, try pulling a piece of spaghetti apart. Very difficult to kind of rip it apart. Also, when you push down on it, if you can hold it from moving, when you push down on it, actually very, very strong. Very weak when we do this. Right? So when we're looking at a material, we're examining the ways in which it's strong. Right? The ways in which it's strong when I'm pushing together. Right? The ways in which it's strong when I'm pushing it together. Right? And the ways in which it's weak when I'm doing this. All right? So sometimes people kind of just want to sort of, make thicker and thicker and thicker objects, right? As if, if you just, welded together this entire thing into one solid mass, that would be strong enough. If you welded all of this, and maybe if you've made pasta before, you can take that whole thing of pasta and break the whole thing in half very easily. So making just more of them thicker doesn't necessarily make strength. Right? So there are other ways to do that. So I'm giving you a little bit of a sort of a tip there that the idea is not in making it thicker or using more glue. It's really in how you arrange the forms. So you might spend some time thinking about, how do I make this a stronger and stronger form? Right? What are the strengths of the spaghetti as opposed to the weaknesses? So that's basically it. That's all I'm going to show you. For our first Zoom meeting on Monday, I would like you to just have these, right? Like I said, it doesn't have to be that. I am going to ask to see them in person, right? So, on Zoom. I am going to ask to see them that way as best as we can. I'm going to ask you, you could take your gallon of milk and pour out all the milk, or drink the milk. Don't pour it out. And then use an empty carton. And the reality is that in this environment, I wouldn't be able to test that. So I would not. I'm just going to ask you to just not cheat. Right? There's no sort of two ways about that. Okay. So think about that and think of this as a fun structural challenge and an introduction, your own introduction into three-dimensional problem solving. All right? Look forward to seeing them.